Welcome back to the channel USA Coins 69, fellow coin collectors, treasure hunters, and curious minds. Today, we're about to unravel the mystery behind one of the most recognizable and overlooked coins in American pockets, the 1973 Washington quarter dollar with a mint mark. Yes, we're talking about that 25-cent piece many of us have spent without a second thought. But what if I told you that one of these quarters, under the right conditions, has sold for a life-changing amount of money? A single coin that once bought a soda could now buy you an entire house. Stick with me, because you don't want to miss the incredible story, the details to look for, and of course, the unbelievable price this seemingly ordinary coin has reached at auction. Let's dive into the world of the 1973 Washington quarter. The Washington quarter was first minted in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of President George Washington. The coin was only supposed to be a one-year commemorative release, but it was so well received that it became the standard quarter design for decades. The design features a profile of George Washington, created by sculptor John Flanagan, with the words, "Liberty" above, "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date below. The reverse displays the bold image of an eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and preparedness, surrounded by olive branches representing peace. This classic design ran unchanged until the late 1990s, making coins from the 1970s part of a special era of U.S. coinage. Now let's take a closer look at the year 1973. A year that might seem ordinary at first glance, but for coin collectors, it holds hidden treasures. In 1973, the Washington quarter was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark; Denver Mint, D mint mark; San Francisco Mint, S mint mark. If you flip your quarter and look to the right of Washington's ponytail, just above the R in quarter, you'll spot the mint mark, if there is one. Most circulated coins will have either a D or no mark at all. But don't let that fool you. Certain versions from each mint, especially in pristine condition or with minting errors, can be extremely valuable. Millions of 1973 quarters were struck, and the vast majority were used in everyday transactions. That's why finding one today in exceptional condition, especially one that's been graded as mint state, is rare. Let's break down why that matters. Collectors and grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins using a 70-point scale. Anything graded MS 60 or higher is considered uncirculated. But to really command attention and high prices, a coin needs to reach MS 67 or even MS 68, and ideally, it should have been preserved from the moment it left the mint. That means sharp details, no scratches or wear, brilliant luster, and perfect surfaces. These are the coins that send collectors into a frenzy. But there's another factor that makes the 1973 Washington quarter truly exciting: minting errors and rare varieties. Let's talk about some of the known 1973 quarter errors that can turn a 25-cent piece into a goldmine. Double die obverse. The date, motto, or other text appears double due to misalignment during minting. Off-center strike. Part of the design is literally missing because the blank wasn't centered in the press. Clipped planchet. A portion of the coin appears to be bitten off due to an irregular blank. Die cracks. Small raised lines that result from worn-out dies used in the minting process. Transitional errors. Very rare but possible if a coin was struck on a leftover planchet from another year or metal composition. Now imagine combining one of these errors with a high-grade uncirculated condition. That's when the value skyrockets. And that's when a Washington quarter becomes a collector's dream. So, how do you know if your 1973 quarter is valuable? First, check the mint mark. Coins from Denver and Philadelphia are more common, while those from San Francisco, especially proofs, can be more valuable. But what matters even more is the state of the coin. Does it still shine like new? Are all the fine details visible? Are there any signs of doubling, misprints, or off-center designs? If you see anything unusual or your coin looks especially sharp and untouched, it's time to get it examined by a professional grading service. That one step could reveal a small fortune hiding in your collection. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. A few years ago, an almost flawless 1973 D Washington quarter surfaced in the hands of a private collector. It had been kept in untouched, mint-fresh condition for decades. Graded MS 68, this coin had brilliant luster, perfectly struck details, and, best of all, a subtle yet confirmed double die obverse, making it one of the rarest varieties of its kind. When the coin was brought to auction, bidders knew they were looking at something special. This wasn't just a quarter, it was a once-in-a-lifetime find. The room buzzed as the bidding climbed higher and higher, and when the gavel finally dropped, the final selling price for that 1973 Washington quarter was an astonishing $100,000. That's right, $100,000 for a coin you could have mistaken for everyday change. It just goes to show that in the world of coin collecting, the most ordinary coins can sometimes hold the most extraordinary value. So, if you've got a pile of old quarters lying around, it might be time to take a closer look. The next rare treasure might already be sitting in your pocket, or your childhood piggy bank. Today, we're digging into one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatic history, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar. Now I know what you're thinking, 1965? That's not even that old. But trust me, there's much more to this coin than meets the eye. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why the 1965 Washington quarter is one of the most talked about coins in modern collecting, how to spot a valuable one, and what to look for in your own pocket change. And of course, we'll reveal the jaw-dropping value one of these rare quarters reached. Stay tuned until the end for the exact figure. I promise, you will be amazed. Let's get into it. The Washington quarter has been in circulation since 1932, introduced to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. For decades, it was struck in 90% silver, making it not just currency, but a small store of precious metal. But 1965 was a turning point. Due to a silver shortage, the U.S. Mint made a massive decision: they removed all silver from the quarter. Beginning that year, quarters were struck from a copper-nickel clad composition, a major shift in U.S. coinage, and that's where our story begins. You see, 1965 quarters were the first of this new non-silver era. But because of the transition, this year became one of the most controversial and collectible in U.S. coin history. Millions of these new copper-nickel quarters were produced to meet national demand. They were minted at high speed, and the mint didn't place mint marks on quarters between 1965 and 1967, making it impossible to tell where exactly the coin was struck. At first glance, a 1965 quarter might seem like a pretty average piece of change. But coin collectors know better, because a small number of errors, anomalies, and leftover silver planchets from the previous year made it into circulation. Yes, that's right. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on silver planchets, meant for 1964 coins. And those are the coins that today command enormous value. So, what makes a 1965 Washington quarter valuable? Let's break it down. 1. Metal composition. Most 1965 quarters are copper-nickel clad, which gives them a duller gray tone with a visible copper edge. But a rare few were mistakenly minted on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These coins have a brighter white appearance and no copper-colored edge. To test this at home, drop your 1965 quarter on a table. Silver coins have a distinctive high-pitched ring, while clad coins produce a duller thud. It's not foolproof, but it's a fun first checkpoint too. Weight. A standard copper-nickel 1965 quarter weighs 5.67 grams, while a silver planchet version weighs about 6.25 grams. A precise scale can reveal if your quarter is one of the rare silver strikes. 3. Strike and detail. Coins struck on the wrong planchet often have sharper details or slightly off edges. Look for abnormalities, especially if the coin has a clean, crisp strike and no signs of copper on the edge. 4. Condition and grading. As always, condition plays a huge role. A 1965 silver quarter in mint state or uncirculated condition could be worth far more than one that's been passed around in circulation. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can officially assess your coin's value. 5. Errors and variants. Even without silver content, certain 1965 quarters with striking errors, like double dies, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets, can bring in a premium. Combine that with an unusual metal composition and you've got a collector's jackpot. So what should you do if you think you've got a rare 1965 quarter? First, examine the coin carefully under good lighting. Look at the edge for signs of copper. Check the weight with a precise digital scale. Listen for the ring of silver. If something seems off, or too good to be true, don't spend it. Have it graded by a professional, because just one rare detail, just one overlooked feature, could be the difference between a 25-cent coin and a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and that leads us to one of the most legendary 1965 quarters ever found. A few years ago, a collector stumbled upon what appeared to be a regular 1965 Washington quarter. But it felt heavier. It looked shinier. And sure enough, after testing, it was confirmed, the coin had been struck on a 90% silver planchet, left over from 1964. But this wasn't just any silver quarter. It was in nearly perfect condition, graded as MS-68 by a top-tier grading service. A true unicorn in the world of coins. It combined scarcity, historical significance, era rarity, and exceptional preservation. When it finally reached auction, the bidding war was intense. Everyone in the room knew they were looking at a piece of minting history, an era that wasn't supposed to exist, and yet, here it was. When the final gavel struck, the winning bid left collectors and experts speechless. That single 1965 Washington quarter sold for $132,000, incredible, right? A coin that most people would overlook. A quarter you might get back as change from a vending machine. That's the beauty of coin collecting. Treasures are hiding in plain sight. So go ahead, check your pockets, your jars, your drawers. You never know what overlooked gem you might already have. That next great coin story could be yours. Today, we're spotlighting a coin you've probably seen hundreds of times before. It jingles in your change, slides under couch cushions, and passes through hands without a second thought. But here's the twist. Some versions of this ordinary-looking coin are worth a fortune. We're talking about the 1995 Washington quarter dollar with a mint mark, a coin that might just be sitting unnoticed in your pocket or change jar right now. But under the right circumstances, this little 25-cent piece could be worth more than most people's annual salary. Let's dig into the fascinating story behind the 1995 quarter, and why some of these coins are changing lives. The Washington quarter has been an American icon since 1932. It was first introduced to honor the 200th anniversary of President George Washington's birth and has been a staple in U.S. currency ever since. The design, created by John Flanagan, features a left-facing portrait of Washington on the obverse side. The reverse side, in 1995, still displayed the bold heraldic eagle clutching arrows and olive branches, a symbol of American strength and peace. This classic design remained unchanged until the State Quarter series began in 1999. So the 1995 quarter represents the final years of the traditional Washington quarter era, making it particularly interesting for collectors. But what makes 1995 stand out in the world of coin collecting? It's not just about the date, it's about what went wrong, and what was accidentally made just right. The 1995 Washington quarter was minted at multiple locations: Philadelphia Mint, No Mint Mark; Denver Mint, D Mint Mark; San Francisco Mint, S Mint Mark. The mint mark is located on the obverse, to the right of Washington's ponytail. While millions of these coins were produced, most were used in everyday transactions. And that's where rarity begins to form, not in how many were made, but how many survived in perfect condition or with rare errors. Now, here's where things get exciting. Most 1995 quarters are worth only face value. But some, thanks to minting mistakes or high-grade preservation, are worth far more, a lot more. Let's talk about what makes certain 1995 quarters stand out. First, condition is everything. Collectors are constantly searching for quarters in mint state condition. These are coins that have never entered circulation. They were likely pulled straight from fresh rolls or sets and handled with care. The grading scale ranges from MS-60 to MS-70, and quarters graded MS-67 or higher are particularly rare and valuable. A 1995 quarter in MS-68 condition, with sharp detail, original luster, and no visible marks, is incredibly hard to find. It's not impossible, but it's close. And that level of rarity commands serious attention at auctions. But there's another level of intrigue: error coins. Let's explore a few of the minting errors and varieties that have made some 1,995 quarters worth thousands. Double die obverse, DDO letters like Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled. This is one of the most visually striking and popular types of errors. Off-center strikes. These coins are struck incorrectly, shifting the design noticeably off-center, sometimes as much as 50%. Clipped planchets. Coins with small crescent-shaped clips due to planchet cutting mistakes, die cracks or cuds. These raised lines or blobs appear where the die used to strike the coin has cracked or chipped. Any one of these errors, especially combined with high grade and eye appeal, can send a coin's value into the stratosphere. So how do you know if your 1995 quarter is worth more than 25 cents? Here's what to look for. Check the mint mark. Quarters from Denver, D, and Philadelphia, no mark, are common, but their errors and conditions vary. Coins from the San Francisco Mint, S, are usually proofs. If you find one in circulation, that's a red flag and potentially valuable. Look closely, use a magnifying glass to examine the lettering. Do you see doubling, especially on the words Liberty or In God We Trust? Inspect the edges. Is the coin perfectly centered? Does the reading look consistent? Any clipped or missing parts? Weigh the coin. Standard quarters should weigh 5.67 grams. Any major variation could indicate it was struck on the wrong metal planchet. Evaluate its condition. Coins with no scratches, shiny luster, and sharp details have greater potential. Even a single grade bump from MS66 to MS67 can increase a coin's value exponentially. If you find a coin that checks off one or more of these boxes, it's time to send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. That simple step can turn your quarter into an investment. Now, let's talk about the most incredible 1995 Washington quarter ever sold. A collector discovered a 1995 D quarter that had all the right elements. It was in flawless mint state 68 condition, struck with no noticeable flaws, and had a rare double die obverse that made it instantly stand out. It wasn't just a coin, it was a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and error. When this coin made its way to auction, collectors and dealers alike knew it was a big deal. Bidding quickly escalated. Phone lines lit up. The room was silent with anticipation as the final moments closed in. Then, the gavel dropped. The final selling price for that single 1995 Washington quarter, $95,000. That's right, a quarter worth 25 cents when it left the mint became a five-figure windfall nearly 3 decades later. And who knows, you might have one of these rare coins sitting in your pocket right now. So what are you waiting for? Check your change. Dig through your coin jar. Go through your old rolls. Because the next coin that makes headlines could be the one you find today. Today, we're diving into one of the most iconic and commonly circulated coins in American history, the Washington quarter dollar. But this isn't just any quarter. We're focusing on the 1979 Washington quarter, a coin that many people dismiss as ordinary, until they find out what it could be worth. And trust me, you'll want to stick around until the very end because the value of a rare version of this coin might just blow your mind. Let's start by taking a step back in time. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It quickly became a fixture in American currency, and over the decades, it's been produced by several U.S. mints, including those in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Fast forward to 1979. It was a year of major change and innovation in the United States. The nation was shifting from the post-Vietnam era, technology was advancing, and the economy was navigating choppy waters. Amid all this, the U.S. Mint continued churning out millions of quarters to keep the economy moving. Now, the 1979 Washington quarter may seem unremarkable at first glance. It features the familiar portrait of George Washington on the front, with the word Liberty above his head and the date, 1979, below. On the back, you'll find a majestic eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, a classic design that represents strength, preparedness, and patriotism. But here's where things get interesting. Most people don't give a second thought to the coins they use to pay for coffee or drop into vending machines. But collectors? They see the details that the rest of the world overlooks. And with the 1979 Washington quarter, some of those details can make all the difference. So, what should you be looking for? First, let's talk about mint marks. Quarters from 1979 were minted in Philadelphia, with no mint mark, Denver, with a D, and San Francisco, with an S. While most of these are relatively common, it's the San Francisco coins, particularly the proof coins, that really get collectors excited. Proof coins are specially made for collectors using polished blanks and carefully prepared dies. They're struck multiple times to bring out sharper detail and a mirror-like finish. The 1979 S quarters are among these, and while many proof coins were made, there are variations that are extremely rare and valuable. One of the biggest things to look for in a 1979 Washington quarter is a minting error or variation. Errors might include double strikes, off-center strikes, or issues with the die that result in unusual markings. There's even a famous Type 1 and Type 2 variety in the 1979 S proof quarters, based on differences in the shape and clarity of the mint mark. Type 1 has a blob-like S, while Type 2 features a clearer, more defined S. Collectors go wild for these kinds of details, especially when they're paired with pristine, uncirculated condition. Even slight differences in the finish, font, or die alignment can dramatically increase a coin's value. So how do these variations turn a 25-cent coin into a small fortune? Condition is key. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect coin. A 1979 Washington quarter that's been kept in flawless condition, especially with a rare mint error or proof variety, can be worth a surprising amount. Coins that are certified by grading services like PCGS or NGC and receive top marks are highly desirable in the collector's market. And then, there are the unicorns. The rarest of the rare. Coins that were struck under unusual conditions, survived in perfect shape, and have unique features that make them one of a kind. These are the coins that collectors dream of discovering, and now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, there is one specific 1979 Washington quarter. Yes, just one small coin, that has stunned the coin collecting world with its auction value. Due to its pristine condition, incredibly rare minting characteristics, and historical appeal, this particular coin sold for an unbelievable $88,000. That's right, 25 cents turned into $88,000. Imagine finding one of those in your old coin jar or inherited collection. It sounds like a dream, but for one lucky collector, it became reality. So before you toss your change into a tip jar or let it gather dust in a drawer, take a closer look. You might just be holding a tiny piece of history with a value far beyond its face. Today, we're diving into a coin that millions of people have handled, but very few truly understand, the 1967 Washington quarter dollar. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a regular quarter, right? A simple 25-cent coin from decades ago. But stay with me, because this coin hides more secrets than you'd ever imagine. And one rare version of it has sold for a jaw-dropping amount you'll never believe, something that could change your whole perspective on collecting coins. Let's rewind the clock to 1967. The world was changing fast. The United States was in the middle of the Vietnam War, the civil rights movement was in full swing, and pop culture was exploding with the summer of love. It was a time of turbulence, transformation, and a rapidly evolving society. In the middle of all this, the U.S. Mint was also going through major changes. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the government had made a big decision to stop using silver in most of its coins. That included the dime, the half-dollar, and, of course, the quarter. By 1967, quarters were being struck in a new composition, completely silver-free. Instead, they were made of a copper-nickel clad, which gave them a more modern appearance and made them cheaper to produce. That means the 1967 Washington quarter was one of the early examples of this new era in American coinage. While it may look like just another coin, this little piece of metal represents a major turning point in the history of U.S. money. The design of the quarter remained the same, with the legendary bust of George Washington on the obverse, created by sculptor John Flanagan. It's a powerful and iconic image that has stood the test of time. On the reverse, we have the bold eagle perched on a bundle of arrows, wings spread wide, flanked by olive branches, symbols of both military strength and peace. But here's where things start to get really interesting. Unlike many other years, the 1967 quarter does not have a mint mark. That's because, from 1965 to 1967, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks to discourage collectors from hoarding coins during a national coin shortage. This makes it harder to trace exactly where each coin was produced, though most were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Now, most 1967 quarters are common. Millions were made. They were used in vending machines, grocery stores, and payphones for decades. They've passed through countless hands and probably slipped under car seats and into couch cushions more times than we can count, but not all 1967 quarters are created equal. Some were struck with unusually high quality. Others contain minting errors, accidents made during the production process that turn ordinary coins into rare collectibles. There are examples of 1967 quarters with off-center strikes, double dies, and even misaligned planchets. These imperfections, though small, are what get coin collectors excited. Because rarity, combined with a unique visual anomaly, can skyrocket a coin's value. Then there's the condition. Most 1967 quarters show heavy wear from years of use. But a select few, just a tiny fraction, were never circulated. They were preserved in pristine condition, sometimes sealed away by collectors or tucked inside original U.S. Mint sets. These uncirculated coins, especially when professionally graded, can reach impressive values in the marketplace, and that brings us to the real treasure. In recent years, a handful of incredibly well-preserved 1967 quarters have surfaced, coins with absolutely flawless surfaces, razor-sharp details, and exceptional luster. These coins have been professionally graded at the highest levels, and when they come up for auction, serious collectors are willing to pay a premium for them. In one extraordinary case, a 1967 Washington quarter, graded in near-perfect condition with remarkable eye appeal and no visible flaws, fetched a staggering price at auction. Are you ready for it? This single 1967 quarter sold for an unbelievable $94,800. That's right. A coin with a face value of just 25 cents ended up being worth more than most brand-new luxury cars. And what's even more incredible? It could have been hiding in someone's pocket change, stuck in a forgotten drawer, or sitting unrecognized in an old coin collection. So what's the lesson here? Never underestimate the value of a coin just because it looks ordinary. The 1967 Washington quarter might seem like pocket change, but under the right circumstances, with rare errors, perfect condition, and a bit of luck, it can become a collector's dream. If you've got a 1967 quarter lying around, now is the time to give it a closer look. Check for any unusual markings. Examine the details. And if it looks uncirculated or flawless, consider having it graded by a professional. Who knows? You could be sitting on a small fortune. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story fascinating, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your fellow collectors or curious friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more hidden coin treasures and rare discoveries. Drop a comment below if you've ever come across a 1967 quarter or any other coin you think might be valuable. We'd love to hear about it. Until next time, keep looking closely. Because sometimes, the most ordinary things turn out to be extraordinary.